In every set, there are the big hits, expensive cards, chase cards, and so on. Some of those cards might even be the subject of a buyout, which is very interesting because honestly, the Surgical Extraction buyout is one of the most successful ones I've ever seen in my entire gaming career. So cheers, well played. We hate you, you're horrible people, but hey, well played. But all those sexy cards aside, here at Dice Commando, we get excited about the boring, good, and reliable cards that produce consistent results. And that's why today we're covering my top choices for functional cards from Dynasty. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks for checking in for, that's right, our functional cards discussion from Dynasty. Now, someone reached out to me not that long ago and they said, what do you mean by a functional card? And it's actually a legit question, right? Legitimate question. So what we mean by a functional card is something that it's going to see play, right? So there are some cards that are meant to be part of a wombo combo, right? Something that, oh my god, I generated 60 points of damage. I did it, once out of 50 times, right? So by functional cards, what we mean are cards that are going to end up finding themselves into the majority of decks, or maybe not the majority of decks, but many, many decks of said build, right? Something that's just fundamentally good, right? A fundamentally good card. So that is what I mean by a functional card. I don't want to give any spoilers away for the list, right? But as we go through this, I think you'll understand what I'm driving to overall, is that these are just good cards that will find their way into play, maybe not in a specific combo, but in the archetype overall. Okay? So, hopefully that makes sense. Also, yes, we are doing this PTI style, and hey, guess what? I changed the template for PTI. Hopefully, we will see how this plays out, but hopefully this is a newer, sexier, less blocky style PTI. That's right. People can evolve. I can evolve too. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into the list. Now, I do want to note this list is in top-down order, right, by class, because it's very hard to rate a card from one class into another class. In fact, I think in Flesh and Blood, it probably shouldn't be done. So when you see the 1 through 11 over there, it's not 1 through 11 in terms of which is the best. That's why 1's first and not 11. Right? Why start with number 1, right? But it's, again, we're just going top down. I have 11 of them because I couldn't choose 10 because there's 11 of them. Again, my party. You can dislike it if you want to, and so on. Furthermore, before we get into it, see how I keep doing that? I did want to talk about Assassin. So Assassin, I was not able to identify a quote-unquote functional card for Assassin in the truest sense, because they're kind of all functional right now, right? Like, for the most part, if you're going to build an Assassin deck, most of the cards that are out there are going to end up in set of Assassin deck in whatever various pitch, right? Like, very few of the yellows, I think, except for, Eradicate, but very few of the yellows overall, I think, will make it in. Maybe the 1-4 yellows make it in, probably not the 0-4, anyway. You guys get it. But the one that I do want to speak to that I think will become a functional card over time is Shred. Shred, I think, very much embodies what maybe not today Assassin is trying to do, but I don't see just think about it. Do you see an Assassin deck ever being built ever without having Shred in it? And probably red Shred and blue Shred, because the value on blue Shred is just insane for what it does, right? A -2 effective +2, however you want to look at it on a blue pitch for a react. That's way above curve. It's fantastic, right? So yeah, I think Shred should be a functional card, but again, how am I supposed to say that Shred is more functional than one of its base attack reactions at this point, because you only have so many choices? But hopefully you guys understand what I'm driving to on that one. All right, so again, top down, Skullcrack is number one, but by number one, I mean the first one. This card is, I can't see this card not being a 3 of or a 2 of, depending on your situation in Brute. So when Skullcrack is discarded at random, gain a resource, and it has 6, right? So sure, it's a red 2 with 3 defense. That's all good. Well, I mean, you'd love it to be blue at that, right? Wouldn't you? But you get my point, right? This card is going to enable some pretty crazy things for Brute, right? You chuck this because, say you have a blue pitch in hand, you set up your 3-card hand, and then you can whatever you want to with goes into club. I mean, that's just a basic play. Just a basic play. This card's really strong for Brute. Like, I don't know. This card's really, I mean, I do know, but I don't know how to say it in a way that doesn't make me sound like a crazy version. This card's phenomenally good for Brute. I don't see any Brute deck not being built with as many of these as you can jam in there, because why the hell wouldn't you, right? And a defense for 3. I mean, yeah. Anyway. All right, next is Madcap Charger. You guys know my love affair with this card. I think this card's absolutely amazing for club-based Rhinar. It's just phenomenal, right? A 3-card hand blue that can throw 10 damage. Or, and I think you do play the yellow of this as well. 9 or 10 damage. That's good. It's just fundamental flesh and blood. Pretty strong. Pretty strong. I think this card makes its way into a lot of decks. The pitfall of this, to a certain extent, is that it doesn't itself have 6 attack. I get that. I do understand that as being a liability. But the club is good. Right? We've seen the recent successful decks that use club to kind of do their thing and set up everything. Makes sense. This card's good. This card's good. All right, next, moving into Guardians. I'll be honest, I think the only card Guardians got in this set that is quote-unquote functional is Buckle. Sure, there's the whole shield package, and it's cool, but functionally, Tear Asunder just made it in every deck, and Buckle's a Tear Asunder, right? It is, right? They're equivalent cards. Makes sense, right? I don't honestly know what more I need to say on this one. This card's really, really, really good. I see this card making its way into the majority of the Anathos-focused pummel build blah, blah, blah decks. This card's really, really, really good. Right, next, so yes, I cheated a little bit on this one because Roar of the Tiger is really not, like, Roar of the Tiger is not going to find its way in every build. That's not the way this is going to work, right? We all get it. But Roar of the Tiger is the poster child. There's an argument that it could be a couple other cards, like maybe even Predatory Strike, to be fair. But Roar of the Tiger is the poster child for the Crouching Tiger line, because I think you're not playing the Crouching Tiger line without Roar of the Tiger, right? I think that's the case. You're going to want to, you know, in the Katsu, see how witty we in the Flesh and Blood world are? I love that. Right, but in the Katsu, there we go, the Katsu line, sure, you want to do the combo card so you can tutor it and all that, but you're probably not tutoring it until you pull Roar of the Tiger. So that's why I have this one identified as the functional card from Dynasty, is I think this is really your quote-unquote enabler of that line. We talked in the Commoner video how I don't think that it's fully developed enough to actually play that line in Commoner, and I think because of this card, right? You're missing this quote-unquote functional card from that line, and then you're not going to play it. So I think it makes sense. All right, moving on to Warrior. So yes, I'm going to take some hate for this one, I realize, right? The new instant that gives the counter, a lot of people are in love with that. It's good. I'm not saying it's not good, but I think it's a little more conditional. So I've heard a lot of people talking about, it's like, well, you need to play it and you need to sideboard it for these specific instances. And I think that in itself eliminates this from functional, quote-unquote, contention, right? And on the flip side, if it looks something like Puncture, I think Puncture is a 2 of in every format. I think I said that correctly, right? I think you want to play it in Blitz as a 2 of. I think you want to play it in Commoner as a 2 of, no doubt there. And I think in CC you play it as a 2 of, because I think it's best when tutored, probably with Singing Steelblade, probably. I realize that that's kind of counterintuitive because Singing's a reprise to do this, and this is the equipment bonus. But this is the crazy monkey in Andrew's head, right? Thinking that that's probably the best case for it. And then do you really want 3 of these with the way equipment works, right? So that's kind of where I'm thinking. So I think this one's best as 2 of in every format. I think this replaces Stroke of Foresight in many cases, but I think there's a lot of arguments for with how Dorinthea is evolving right now. I think there's a lot of arguments for running them both. Then you have to sack some other stuff. Anyway, you guys get it. But Puncture is, and yes, I'm predisposed to this one for it being a Dice Commando Discord. Dice Commando spoiler. Sorry about that. All right, next is, there's gonna be a lot of mech on here because mech did real good in this set. Okay, so this is Hanabi Blaster. I think it's Hanabi Blaster. Whatever. Let me know how to say it in the comments below if I'm saying it wrong, because I probably am. I think this one. What do I mean? I think this one's very clearly functional. I think in many cases it takes over. So there are a lot of cases in which when you get decked, right? If you go full boost and they fatigue you, you're screwed on this one. But like in most cases, isn't Talishar probably broke by that point anyway, right? So I think this just 1-to-1 swaps for Talishar, I think, right? And in the matchups where you don't, in CC, you've got the pistol sideboard. You have enough of a loadout in the other formats to run pistol anyway if you don't want to. I think this card just, I mean, not commoner, obviously, it's a Majestic, but like I think this card's very functional. I don't see this card not seeing play. We'll see. Again, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I know there's a lot of people that love Talishar. I'm not taking that away, but this one seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. All right, next is Pulse Wave Harpoon. So I want to be very clear about something. This card's very good in terms of the effect on this card is very, very, very good, right? Being able to snipe something out of their hand that they want. So especially if you're like full boost and they're like, I'm just going to come back harder, then you're able to throw this, snipe something out of their hand that was going to be a key piece of whatever they were trying to come back at you with. Awesome, right? But even if you just dumb this card down to being yet another 1/4 with boost, I think that in itself is very strong, because the more of these type of cards we get that are affordable boost on a blue pitch, right, helps you enable your Max Velo. And Max Velo is super good. That's like everybody's dream play, but it's like kind of hard to pull off, as well it should be, because the card's stupid good when it works. And that's what makes it not stupid good, right? And that's why some people aren't playing it. But my point is, the more of these things we get just at like a 1/4 with boost, a 0 anything with boost, right, it enables your Max Velo. And then this one has a potential on, actually it's not even on hit, it's a on boost chain ability that sucks something out. This card's awesome. This card sees a ton of play, every format that is legal, absolutely, 100%. All right, BIOS update. Again, this is one of those, like, if I had to pick a number 1 from the set, this might be the number 1 from the set in terms of functional cards. This card's phenomenal, right? So how many decks out there, even in Blitz, where you're on a full-on boosty boost, right? There's no worse feeling than boosting away one of your vital pieces of equipment, like especially if you're on the boosty boost and you're like, oh, I just boosted away my other Pound Town, right? My other Tekla Pounder. This card's awesome, right? And a lot of people are playing, it's like for the cost curve and also for the availability, right? They're playing your Rotary Rams, they're playing your Locked and Loadeds, whatever they might need to. And granted, this is in red only, but this is just a 1-to-1 swap for those cards, because, you know, Rotary Ram's good in concept, but it breaks the chain, and like a lot of times you're not going to do that. Locked and Loaded's fine, it's fine. But BIOS update, why the hell not? Like, this card's good, right? Straight up goes into anything that's Majestic plus legal format in this game. Absolutely awesome. All right, for the Ranger side, I have Heat Seeker. This card's just good, right? So when this card hits the beginning of your end phase, put the top card of your deck face up into your arsenal. Face up into your arsenal is very key. That means it works with Lexi, right? Works with Lexi. Doesn't, well, assuming she's got her headpiece active, right? Assuming she has her headpiece active, awesome. Gets you the card advantage there. It just actually doesn't fill up your arsenal slot. And again, at the beginning of your end phase, Well, that's very interesting in terms of how arsenaling works and all that, right? This card's really good. It's a 1 for 5. I shouldn't say this card's really good in the grand scheme of Fab, but it's really good in terms of how arrows work, right? Azalea doesn't mind, throwing this as a 8 dominate and then getting to backfill a card that she can. Granted, she can't cross wrap. She can't cross wrap this because it's face up, but either way, you've got an arrow in there or whatever. You guys get it. Card's very, very, very good. I expect to see this in a lot of Ranger decks. I know a lot. The card overall, I think it's only like $1.50 right now, which actually is interesting. But then again, there's not a ton of like aggressive Ranger players out there like trying to get their stuff. Probably even in CC, probably only run 2 of these, I would think. But this card's pretty good. Pretty good. Right, next up for the Runeblades, I think I'm going to get negative feedback on this one, and I'm okay with it. I think Cryptic Crossing is actually a really good card, right? So this one's a 3, which is kind of a turnoff. It's a 3 yellow for 6, so it can serve as a popper, right? And if both an attack and an NA are pitched, it gets when this deals, or this is important, right? The first time this deals damage to the defending hero, they discard a card and you draw a card. Okay, so Bramblespark, anybody? Bramblespark, anybody with the Arcane? Now they've got to block them both. And this is coming in for 6. Fused for maybe the plus. Even if not, that's still pretty good. I mean, sure. You have to pitch 2 to it. I get it. So I understand why there's going to be feedback saying this is not a functional card. That said, I think the upside on this is so strong, and let's be honest, isn't that kind of what Runeblades are trying to do, is capitalize on that upside? I think it is. I mean, maybe not Runeblades in general, but definitely Briar. She plays a lot of corner cases that seem to work for her, and I feel like this one's pretty good. Pretty good. So that's my take. Again, let me know in the comments if you disagree. All right, last one I have up, and again, this is another one that I might take some negative feedback for, and that's fine. But I really like Phantasmal Symbiosis. So there's a lot of things going on with this card. And yes, I realize Prism has done her thing in CC, but she's still legal in Blitz, and she's doing quite well in Blitz. Somehow, that one took me off guard. But Phantasmal Symbiosis, right? So it's a yellow for 1 with 6. So it's on the War Tune curve. Okay, it defends 3. When this attacks, name a card. Cards with that name are Illusionist until end of turn. So here's why I think this card's good. Okay, there are a lot of plays in CC, obviously. There are a lot of, like myself, most of my decks, I sideboard 6s, right? Because the heroes I play don't just have a bunch of 6s. I sideboard specific 6s like CNC, Findall's Fighting Spirit, specifically to bring in my Illusionist matches. So you can look at discards, you know what's in there. I think Phantasmal Symbiosis, and it's until end of turn, by the way, right? So you can name, you're like, all right, well, I've got, if they have Command and Conquer in their hand, I'm screwed. If they don't, I'm fine, because I know that Dorinthea sideboarded in 3, you don't know, but you highly suspect Dorinthea sideboarded in maybe some CNCs, maybe some Vindal's Fighting Spirits, whatever. You've seen it, you get what I'm saying, right? In those corner case matches, what they're probably running. And you can call those out, and if they didn't have it, it costs you nothing to call it out. And if you did, now they can't stop you even when they have it in their hand, and it's good for turn. Good for turn, right? So I think, again, I know this card hasn't been getting a lot of love, but I think this card's really, really, really strong for a lot of cases. For a lot of cases. Now, what you're yelling at the screen right now is, well, she's not legal in CC, so your sideboarding argument doesn't make sense. Fair enough, because you want to, yellow, Luminars, go again. I get it. But it's also a 1 and it can snappies. Out. I'm not saying you're going to do that, but just stick with me on this one. Maybe even not right now, but this card, very, very, very strong. Very, very, very strong, I think. So anyway, that is my take on the whole scenario. So yes, that is the end of the list, but I do want to thank you for, hanging out. Again, your feedback on this is always valuable. Functional card is definitely functional / usable card, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely a moving target based on the preference of the player and the experience of players within that. I'm never going to sit here and claim that I know how to play every hero equally, but these are the cards that popped out to me as being very, very useful going forward, not only in this set in the current meta, but into perpetuity. So that was my take. Let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you guys for checking in. I really appreciate hanging out with you guys. I'll see you guys in the comments. If nothing else, go Commando.